We are in the 6 constant mitzvot, and we are on page 30. Now, in this part, it's interesting. In Yosef Hashem, we should be Zocha. We'll end off the introduction today, and we'll end off the introduction to the introduction, and then we'll start the introduction of the book. Again, the book is cut into, I believe, 49 days, if I'm correct. 49, I believe that's what. Yeah, day 49. So it's split into 49 days. This is the reason they did this, is so that after we finish this course, which however long that takes, then the goal for you, and today you'll understand why, is to review it every day, and every 50 days you'll finish this book, or every 49 days, every 50 days you'll start again, and if you keep reviewing and reviewing and reviewing and reviewing, then the goal is that you'll actually get the 6 constant mitzvot. Now today you're going to find out why we have to do this. So the Maharal explains that there are 3 aspects to man's ideal state. He must achieve the proper relationship with Hashem, with his fellow man, and with himself. Each of these in isolation is insufficient. Obviously, the Torah does not countenance a person who is scrupulous in devotion only to God-related commandments, but deals dishonestly or unkindly with his fellows. There's a famous thing: how can a religious person be a thief? Because he doesn't inculcate everything into his body, that's all. He's putting on tefillin, he's wearing the kippah, he's putting on the tzitzis, she's lighting Shabbos candles, she's going to the mikvah, she's doing all these religious things, because after all, we're religious people. But when it comes to acting appropriately with other people or in business, business and religion don't mix. And that's the mistake that people make all the time. Why? Because they don't internalize the 6 constant mitzvot. That's the purpose of what that we'll find out this whole thing is for. So, nor is it acceptable for a Jew to be a saint in his interpersonal dealings while ignoring the commandments between himself and God. And here's the other side of the picture. I'm a good guy. I don't cheat in business. I'm perfect in all my taxes. I help people across the street. I give them rides wherever they have to go. Wonderful. But you put tefillin on? No, I don't put tefillin on. I don't do any of that because that doesn't really matter. God just wants us to be good human beings. Okay? So both sides are wrong. You can't pick one and not the other. So he's now... so he says, nor is it acceptable. There is another important element in human wholeness. A person must have self-respect and not underestimate his own worth and potential. The Maharal explains at length how David's framework includes all 3 elements. Briefly, the Maharal expounds that the first 4 of David's precepts involved a person's perfection of himself, his body, as represented by Avram's circumcision, which the Torah describes as making himself tamim or whole. His soul, represented by performing good deeds, being honest with himself and consistent with his ideals, represented by being truthful in his own heart and being correct in his speech. For man's distinction is that he alone has the power of intelligent speech. Here's another thing. Not only are we talking about Lashon Hara, that you shouldn't speak Lashon Hara or Motzi Shemra, all those wonderful things, but also I should be refined in my language. The worst thing is when you have a person who starts using all the bombs. I'll leave that, again, Hamev Yav in certain things. When we start using those bombs, whether it's just to make an impact on somebody or something else, you don't do it. I remember when I was young, the rabbi called me up. I had sprained my ankle or something, and he used language on me like a kid would use. Not anything bad, but it was something like cool dude or something. It was some strange thing, and I was thinking, that's the rabbi. Now, he was trying to talk to me at my level, which I was never at that level anyways, of cool dude. It's only now that I'm a man of, and the Torah, since I say, what's going on, man? I haven't used man since the 70s. I don't know how that came back into vocabulary and how that came back into vogue, but God only knows that bell bombs are coming next. That's all that's happening. Okay, here we go. Somebody's doing something. What? Big Lebowski. That's right. It's unbelievable. certain things just a cool man. Like, where are you crazy? But that came back. But like I said, the rabbi spoke that way, and I was taken out of my comfort zone as a kid. That's not the rabbi. I expect that from my friends, not somebody who I look up to. And that's what we're talking about. When we put a kippah on, and when we wear our tzitzis, and when we're known as Orthodox, we are looked at like I looked at that rabbi. We are expected to do certain things. And when we disappoint people, and we speak incorrectly, and again, I'll leave that to you. I'm not talking about cool man, all these other things. But when we really start using incorrect foul language, to be very specific, that's when we have made such a desecration of God's name that's not even funny. Or when we speak slander, when we get involved in all these things. Again, people look at us and say, that's what the model of God is? That's God's chosen people? They're disappointed. And they're taken aback at that. So again, that's what we have to keep remembering, all these things that we have to really inculcate into ourselves, and we just can't lose it no matter what. And it's very, 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 extremely difficult to do that. Okay? David's next 4 precepts involve the Jew's relationship with his comrades, his relatives, with people who strive to be righteous, and finally to deal properly even with those who are far from Torah's ideals. Finally, David stresses that one's life must exemplify his desired relationship with God, never violating an oath, resisting the temptation to profit by charging interest for a loan, and maintaining the integrity of the judicial process by not accepting an inducement to favor one litigant over another. In connection with these commandments, the Torah explicitly says that one must fear Hashem. And again, fear does not mean I have to be afraid of you. Fear means I have to be in awe of Hashem. That's what it means. We wondered why some of the precepts on David's list are not among the 613 commandments. They don't have to be. First of all, as the Vilna Gaon expounds, the will of God goes far beyond the 613 formal commandments. Second, David is speaking of a human being's ability to refine himself so that he can be worthy enough of closeness to Hashem. If he achieves that, then his performance of the 630 commandments to the best of his ability, even if it is not ideal, will bring him as far as possible toward achieving the desired goal. Rav Yitzchak Zev Soloveitchik, the Brisker Rav, was once asked why the Torah never commands people regarding the need to develop good character traits, such as not being angry or greedy or judging people favorably and so on. That's all ethics that we have, but the Torah is not commanding us in those sort of fashions. The Rav answered that God gave Torah to mention decent human beings. Becoming a mensch is a prerequisite to receiving the Torah. It is obvious and need not be mentioned. One may see the response of the Brisker Rav as an extension of King David's formula. Regarding the formulations of Yeshaya and Micha, Maharal explains that there are 2 essential elements of conduct: chesed and mishpat, kindness and justice. He explains how the verses the Talmud quotes from these prophets also express these 2 principles. So you're already getting an idea of where we're going with this. One is that we have to be a mensch before we can receive the Torah. We have to be willing to listen to to a greater power than us, and we have to be refined in our learning, in our speech, in our mode of action. If we are, then we have a chance. Otherwise, now I think Rabbi Rode said it best a long time ago with one of his lectures. If I'm a bulvan is a bull in a china shop sort of thing, a bully, and all. I'm uncultured. So if I'm a bulvan and I now learn Torah, I'll be a bulvan who knows Torah. That's what he said. I'm pretty sure I'm quoting him too. On the other hand, if I'm a nice guy and I learn Torah, so I'll be a nice guy who knows Torah, and that's what everybody wants. So again, Torah doesn't make the man, as it were. It's the man makes the Torah. So I can have a lot of knowledge, but it doesn't. I have to be cultured, and I have to be refined, and I have to really put myself into that picture. Yeah.
So receiving does every Jew automatically receive the Torah, or must we have this level of understanding of culturing ourselves in order to really receive the Torah?
According to the Maharal, you have to be cultured before you can receive the Torah. That's why it says in Pirkei Avot, a bore cannot be a Yirei Hashem. A bore, an uncultured person, cannot fear God. Just can't have the awe of God because it's not there. It's just not within.
Even so, he's Jewish, and even if it's presented right in front of him, he's not actively.
Correct. If he's not ready for it, and that's, by the way, what we're learning last night in Derech Hashem. If I'm not ready for it, then nothing's going to happen. I can yell at you all I want, but nothing's going to happen. I can put it right in front of you. I can give you the best thing, and I know people don't like to quote Bill Cosby, but it was one of the better lines of the Cosby Show. It was, he was meeting his daughter's husband, and she didn't present him right. And so the guy asked him, he said, Dr. Cosby, or whatever his name was.
Dr. Huxtable.
Dr. Huxtable, you don't like me, do you? She said, oh no, I have nothing against you. But you have to understand something. Imagine, if you will, that I had a beautiful porterhouse steak. And here I am, now only Bill Cosby can say this, the way he does it, and I put it on my barbecue. And I'm cooking up, and you're smelling it, so beautiful. Oh, that smell just gets you, and so on and so forth. He really builds it up. And then he says, and what do? I take it, that beautiful steak, and I serve it on a garbage can cover. You going to want to eat it? The guy says, no. He said, that's how my daughter presented you. She presented, you're a nice guy, but she presented you on a garbage can cover to me. Why would I like you? And so the same thing goes here. If I'm learning Torah, I'm learning it theoretically or whatever. I went to yeshiva because I want to know what Jews are like, what my heritage is. But I'm a bulvan. I'm so uncultured, and I'm getting all this information, but I'm not putting it into me. It's just I know it. So fine, I learned it. Great. By the way, if you want to really see this, again, I always go back to this. The doctor who smokes, the gym teacher who's a fat slob. What happened? You guys should be, at the top of the game. You shouldn't be smoking. You shouldn't be fat. You shouldn't be anything else. And you should be able to run around with the best of us. And they're not. They're out of shape. And the doctors are smoking one after another, and worse. And you're thinking, what happened to you? I don't get it. And the reason is because they never did what is going on here. They never thank you, that's what I was looking for. They never internalized what they were teaching. Torah must be internalized, but I have to be ready to internalize it. You have a question? Oh, okay. That's what I'm saying. So that's what he's arguing. That's what the Maharal is arguing. So finally, the Talmud states that Chavakuk distills all the commandments into one rule, namely the righteous person shall live through his faith. Faith must be complete and unquestioning. One who trusts a friend regarding almost everything cannot be said to have full confidence in his friend. He trusts himself, but he takes it upon himself to evaluate what his friend says and does. Of course, he believes that his friend means well, but if the friend says something that he cannot accept, something that seems unreasonable, or something that will cause him inconvenience or a serious loss of money, will he still have faith, or will he question his friend's judgment, or much worse, his loyalty? When Chavakuk distills the Torah into one fundamental principle, that a tzaddik lives through his faith, he means that a truly righteous person has total faith in Hashem. And when someone has that degree of faith, then no mitzvah is too difficult to perform, and no temptation too strong to resist. Now, again, this is what he's saying. It's an amazing thing what Chavakuk is. They're arguing on Chavakuk that when he says the righteous person shall live through his faith, because what happens? We understand that whatever Hashem told us And by the way, when he told us, listen to the rabbis, so that giving the rabbis the authority, not just any rabbi, but the rabbis of the Gemara, and so on and so forth, when he gave that authority to all of us, so then if I really have faith in the system, in other words, nothing would be too difficult. Not waking up in the morning, not staying up at night, not doing anything, not eating kosher, not going to the mikveh, whatever people have problems with. The only reason we have problems is because we're not sure. That's all. We're not 100% sure. We're 99%. Let's go that way. But for that 1%, there's a lot of stuff that you can get in my way. So that's why he's saying, and when such a person has an unbreakable attachment to Hashem, and once such an attachment exists, he is automatically an image of Hashem, and that image will become increasingly solid as it performs mitzvah after mitzvah. Why is that true? Anybody want to take a guess?
Mitzvah leads to another mitzvah.
Why? Why does one mitzvah lead to the other?
Because it makes you that much stronger.
I recognize more and more that this is my good. Why do I listen to my parents? Because the more I listen to them, assuming they're not trying to kill me, the more I listen to them, the more I realize that they know what they're talking about. You create trust. And once you create that trust, so then when you tell me something that I'm not sure if you're right, you have a proven record at that point. Why would I doubt it? So I give you the benefit of the doubt, and I go for it. I say, okay, I trust you. Now imagine, that's the parent. Parent doesn't know everything. Parent's the first one to say, I don't know everything. But God does. God created us. So when he tells us to do whatever we're supposed to do, and I have this proven record of trust and working out, so then fine. I'm going to trust God. So that's why each mitzvah, I see the beauty of what Hashem was trying to do. It becomes, and one will lead to the other. I'm not going to say it's going to become easier, because again, when we're not used to something, it's very hard to break those, to get into that. But but the more I do, and the more I see that it's working, or the more I see what it's supposed to be doing, I may try to work harder at making that thing work. Okay. Reb Sadok Cohen adds that a secondary aspect of Chavuk's principle is that a Jew must have faith in himself, in his own ability to serve Hashem perfectly. It is a well-known axiom that someone with self-confidence will do better than one who is always fearful. This applies not only to oratory, business, performing arts, and sports. It applies as well to the service of Hashem. Formulations such as David's, Yeshaya's, Micha's, and Chavukuk are examples for the spiritual leaders of Israel in every generation. The goal is always the same. In times when the ideal way to draw close to Hashem and fashion oneself in his image seems beyond the capacity of his people, there must always be a way to overcome the obstacles. In the generation before David, there was only one way. The Torah gave us 630 commandments. And as the Vilna Gaon taught, there are myriad ways to serve Hashem every moment of every day. It is an unending pursuit of perfection. As generations grew weaker, the prophets found ways to make people worthy of the attachment to the divine. 11 ways, 6, 3, and 2, and 1. Always the goal was the same: transform a human being into a receptacle of spirituality. That's the goal. Okay. Now, when the author of Sefer Chinuch, and the Sefer Chinuch was written by, the question was written by, it says, it's attributed to Rav Aaron Cohen Halevi of Barcelona. And what happened was, he wrote a letter to his son, or turned into a book, telling what all 613 commandments were, 613 commandments were about, the reasons for them, and he was getting that from the Nachmanides and Maimonides, and whether or not they are applicable today. So he said to his son, if you read this every week, I don't know how it's supposed to be every week, but okay, they read a lot in those days again. But if you continually read this book, so then the Torah will never move from your lips. Now, he wanted to really impress his child as to what the Torah is and what the reasons are. And when we get into reasons, by the way, for anything, remember, the reason is only as good as what you believe it to be. Ultimately, the only reason to follow the Torah is because God said so. Period. But because when otherwise, when the reasons fall apart, because of timing or whatever else, as we learn more stuff, so sometimes the reasons given don't really make sense in today's standards. So fine, deal with it. We don't know everything. We're giving reasons for it. It's like, by the way, when we learn Hebrew, it's like giving reasons for how the Torah works. And every once in a while, I'll give you an example. In this week's Torah portion, it says about Moshe, when he saves Yitro's daughters, it says, V'yoshi'an, with a nun at the end. Well, that's correct. Yoshi'an, he saved them. It's correct. Nun is a feminine ending. But then it says, and he watered their flocks. And it says, sonam, with a mem. That's the male ending. Well, who are you talking about? You just said the girls. It should have said sonan, not sonam. Okay? And the answer is, that's how it works. I asked the person who knows grammar. That's how it works. So the rule is the rule until it's no longer the rule. Okay? So the reason is the reason until it's no longer the reason. Deal with it. Again, God said so is the ultimate reason. God gave us Hebrew. God knew what he was doing. One day we'll figure out why they changed from a nun to a mem. Okay? But that's how it works. So again, when the author of the Sefer Chinuch wrote of the importance of the 6 constant mitzvot, he did not mean that there are no other commandments that are always applicable. Sefer Charedim writes that there are 6 positive commandments and 8 negative commandments that are constant. But the Chinuch does not include them in his list. We suggest that the Chinuch is following the precedent of the prophets in teaching how we can mold ourselves into Hashem's image. He maintains that one who inculcates the 6 basic constant commandments into his mind and heart become different not only in degree but in kind from one who is observant, but without the transformative effect of these 6 mitzvot. The Chavetz Chaim in Bir Halacha, at the very beginning of the Shulchan Aruch, Or Chaim echoes that contention by listing those 6 commandments in some detail. To absorb them is to fashion oneself into a receptacle of godliness. How that is done and the underlying message of these commandments is the subject of what we're going to, of this volume. Success in achieving this goal brings one to a new spiritual plateau. And here's the last part. There's a familiar saying that the first commandment that a Jew performs upon becoming a bar mitzvah is a recitation of the evening Shema. And this is why the very first Mishnah in the Talmud discusses the time span for its recitation. Interestingly, the Chasam Sofer contends that a different mitzvah comes before Kriyat Shema. It is the mitzvah alluded to in the Torah, and it illustrates the teaching of the Vilna Gaon and Rebbe Shor's elaboration that there are many precepts that are the will of God, although they are not on the list of the 613. The Tochacha, or the admonishment of Parshas Kitavo, lists many fearsome punishments and states that they will come upon the Jewish people, Tachat asher lo avadete et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha v'tuv leva, because you did not serve Hashem, your God, with gladness and goodness of heart. The implied commandment could not be more clear. And this is important, Jews are required to feel joy in the service of Hashem. The instant Jewish children reach the age of bar or bas mitzvah, they are required to feel this joy in the service of God. Try to tell them that, right? You are commanded to have joy. Bottom line is, if we as parents have done our job, then our kids are going to ivdu Hashem b'simcha. They're going to serve Hashem with joy. If we're doing it the other way, where we say, you got to do this, you have to go to shul because you have to. Or you have to learn this because, well, we all have to learn it. I remember, again, it was when I was in, not Bangor, when I was in Fall River. I was running a Hebrew school, and one of the parents told me that he said to his kid that he has to come to Hebrew school, and yeah, I'm sure he hates it. He hated it. His father hated it. We all hate Hebrew school. So I said, thank you so much for making my job so easy. Why would you tell your kid that? Let him make his own decision. And why didn't you tell him you loved it and he should love it? It's your, the whole thing. But you can't convince people. So that's, again, if I have a negative attitude, oh gosh, Shabbos is one, Shabbos can be over. My God, I have to go to work. I have to do this, I have to do that. I want to get to my emails. I want to do. You're destroying the very thing that was a gift to us. And you're looking at it in a horrible manner. Can you imagine you get $1 million and say, I have to spend this really quickly. Why? It's a gift, your gift. No matter how much you spend, it's going to still be there. Okay? So that's what we're supposed to do. We want to get that joy going. Just as the transformation engendered by a Jew's adherence to the 6 constant mitzvot cited by the Sefer Chinuch is a process that takes time and effort. The commandment to be joyous starts at the beginning of one's service of Hashem, and its achievement is a never-ending process. Rabbi Tzadok Kohen reveals the source of the joy. And what is it? It's the knowledge that Hashem takes pride in our service. What can be a greater source of joy than the realization that Hashem created the world for the sake of the nation that would accept His Torah with perfect faith and devote itself to His service? And what could be a greater incentive than to make one worthy of Hashem's closeness by fashioning himself by means of the 6 constant mitzvot? So that's Rabbi Sherman's take on this whole thing. Again, now we're starting with the introduction of this book. That was a pre-introduction, now you have the thing. The first thing is, the Sefer Chinuch says on the great page, this page, the great page. Sefer Chinuch says, the obligation to fulfill these mitzvot, the 613 mitzvot, the Torah is not constant, rather they are obligatory during specific times of year or day. 6 mitzvot, however, are obligatory constantly. They should not be absent from one's consciousness for even 1 second of his life. And they are to have faith in Hashem, not to believe in other gods, to understand that He is one, to love Him, fear Him, and not to stray after the thoughts of your heart and the sight of your eyes. Now, I think everybody reads this and says, yeah, so we all do that. Doesn't everybody, if I would go one by one, I'll do it. Does everybody have faith in Hashem? Yeah, right? You don't have to think, am I right? You don't know, okay. You're sure today?
No. If we really did, then...
No, but I'm saying, right, no, I'm agreeing with you. Okay. But I'm just saying, in general, you say, do you have faith in Hashem? Any Orthodox guy, woman, in person? Yes. Okay, check that one off the list. Do you believe in other gods? No. Check that one off the list. Good, done it. God is one, yes? Shema Yisrael Hashem. Oh, beautiful, done. Okay. Do you love Hashem? Beautiful, done. Done. Do you fear Hashem or have awe, respect Hashem? Of course we do. Otherwise, why are we doing this? Very good. Do you stray after the thoughts of your heart and the sight of your eyes? That one again. Okay. That one, I'm not so sure. People can really say, me? No. That I have, okay. Maybe that one. But the other 5, I think we could check, right?
Keep looking at the tzitzis.
Say that again?
Keep looking at the tzitzis.
Keep looking at the tzitzis, right. Now, that's what you have to keep in mind. Like I said, everybody thinks that they have those 5 out of 6 down really good. Let's see. And you'll see, again, we're trying to inculcate this so that when we wait until it becomes second nature. That's the bottom line of this. It has to be second nature. So now on page 41.
Number 6 is different. There's a quality difference in number 6.
Uh-huh. There is a difference in 6, right. But really 6 is based upon, it's really encompassing all 5.
Implementation of.
Right, it's really encompassing all 5. So because, why do I go after the thoughts of my own heart? Just to stick on that for a second. Why would I do that? Because I think I'm in charge. You have people, again, we have what we call workaholics. Okay, and they go to work and they are putting their time in, and they truly believe that that their reward is based upon how much work they put into it. Okay, I'm not going to argue on that because I can't. That's their belief. My belief is not that. My belief is everything comes from Hashem. So I have to do my endeavors. No question about that. And I have to put in my time, 100%. I have to go to work, as it were. But I have to also realize that my success is not because of how much work I put in, but rather the merits I've built up along the line. And if I have faith in Hashem, then that's going to happen. Then what's going to happen when I see that that somebody else gets something and I didn't, I have to say, Gamzu Latova. It's also from Hashem. And that's very hard. That's very hard to do. When you see somebody, all these people who are successful in various ways, and they're getting everything that you think you should have. They got the nice wife, the nice car, the nice wife, the right husband, whatever the case is going to be. You think, or the great
House.
Great. I said a great house, great land, a pool, a brand new pool with all the
$1,000 suit.
$1,000 suits. they have restaurants, they whatever they want, and you're thinking, well, wait a second. Why am I the schlepper? I put my tefillin on. I do this. I do that. What are you doing to me? I should be at the top of the food chain. Think about that. Every single one of us, logically, should be at the top of the food chain. You shouldn't have to dream about being a millionaire. That should just be a given. We're doing what Hashem wanted. Where are you? What's going on, Hashem? Why not? And then we have to start thinking, oh, you know what? I don't know everything. Hashem, for whatever reasons, whatever those reasons are, it would ruin, what's the line? It would spoil some vast control plan. It would. And I have to accept that, and I have to say, Baruch Hashem, for whatever role you gave me. I just recently said to a person who was trying to convert, I asked him, do you love Hashem? Of course. Do you trust Hashem? Of course. So then be a Ben Noach. Leave me alone. Hashem, you did Ben Noach. The guy wasn't stupid. He said, there are people who convert. I said, it's true. There are people who convert. Sometimes they get born into the wrong body, if you will. Their neshama goes into the wrong body. But they still have to do B'nai Noach. And if you think you're of that person, of that ilk, after doing the laws of B'nai Noach, come back to me. Maybe you are one of those people. But until then, do what God told you to do. Okay? It's very possible. Again, we have to accept what God's mission to us, whatever that mission is. I don't know we guess what our mission is, but the way that Derech Hashem says, you know your mission because it keeps coming back at you. You have to keep doing over and over and over again. So obviously my mission in this life is to make a minion, because that's what I keep running into. Okay, I don't know why. That's my mission. Maybe I didn't go to minion in my former life. I don't know. But it seems that I have to make minyanim. But that's what it is when we have to look at that and not say, I don't get this. Why in my profession, there are some rabbis who are making Orthodox, who are making 6 figures. Not including the decimal point. Okay? And you look at that and saying, I don't get it. What did they do? Why did I? I'm working harder than they are. So on and so forth. Now they would argue with that, of course, but that's what you're doing, and that's what you're saying. Don't do that. Don't stray. Don't. And that, by the way, it comes from, we say it every single day. He said every single day, twice a day in Shema. Don't go after your eyes and after your heart. Forget it. It's not going to happen. Whatever Hashem wants comes to the Tova. Okay? So now, let's go. Introduction, 41. In the introduction to Sefer HaChinuch, the author singles out 6 mitzvot that one is commanded to fulfill on a constant basis. These mitzvot, he writes, should not be absent from a person's consciousness for even 1 second of his life. These commandments do not involve action. They are meant to be performed through thought alone. Even so, it is difficult to understand the very premise of the obligation to fulfill the sheish mitzvot to mediate the 6 constant mitzvot. For how is it possible to think about 6 different things at the same time? And even if someone could theoretically master the art of juggling 6 different thoughts in his mind simultaneously, how would he then go on to fulfill all the other mitzvot of the Torah, let alone lead an otherwise productive life? It would seem, therefore, that there must be a different idea behind the 6 constant mitzvot. So
that when we're talking about the 613 mitzvahs, is in general is the concept of performing a mitzvah, specifically the 613. It involves some action,
right?
And where this is thought, this is not physical action per se.
Correct. But some of the 613 do involve thought.
No.
Belief in God. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I'm Hashem your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt. So that is thought. That's acceptance. Yeah. I have to accept God as my king. Okay, so some of them do have thoughts, some of them don't. How many times a day do we think about the force of gravity? How many times? No? You ever think about it? You never thought, right? There you go. I'm not leaving.
Every time I climb stairs.
Okay. Me, it's every time I look at my stomach. It used to be up here.
If you drop something, you don't want to drop.
Right. Okay. So it is quite possible that days, years, and even decades go by in which we don't think about gravity at all. At the same time, however, our awareness of the existence of a gravitational pull in the atmosphere is evident in nearly every movement that we make. We sip coffee from a mug and then place the mug down on the table. An astronaut traveling in space could not have done that. He would need some device to help hold the mug and the coffee in place. Even the simplest movements we make require an awareness of gravity. We would not be able to walk, lie down, or shake hands without it. Now that we are thinking about gravity, we realize that we would not be able to accomplish very much without its existence. Although we are constantly aware of the force of gravity, we do not think about it on a conscious level. Our actions reflect our awareness of this invisible force as a constant presence in the atmosphere, even though we have little or no thought of it. The idea behind the 6 constant mitzvot is that each of the 6 represents an awareness that we must have. These 6 awarenesses should become so ingrained in our psyche that they are reflected in all of our actions. Juggling 6 awarenesses may sound as difficult to master as thinking about 6 different concepts. We will learn, however, that the 6 constant mitzvot have a cumulative effect, and by mastering the thought process behind them, we can learn to behave in a way that reflects all 6 awarenesses simultaneously. Every decision, every movement we make, from the most deliberate to the most mechanical, can be governed by the underlying concepts of the 6 constant mitzvot without our stopping to think actively about them. I just want to go till day 2. Okay, so one might argue that the 6 sets of thought process are very different from gravity. Gravity is intuitive. You know about it, fine. There are parts of the world in which people are raised without the most basic knowledge of science, and yet they're able to place their feet on the ground or pick fruits from a tree without having them float away. It just happens. Perhaps that instinctive integration of a concept is possible only with physical natural phenomena such as gravity, but not with the complex thought processes that are the 6 constant mitzvot. So let us take another example from everyday life to show that we can keep extremely complex processes simmering in the background of our mind while performing the other tasks in the foreground. Now, you guys learned to drive yet? What are you, 15? Are you learning now? Good. You'll get this really well then. When a person first learns to drive, he is often overwhelmed by the multiple tasks that must be performed simultaneously. He wonders how he will manage to shift between the gas and the brake pedals. Glance in all of the mirrors every few seconds. Check the speedometer. Keep an eye on traffic lights and steer the car in the correct direction. And that's all in the driveway, by the way. Okay. All the while paying attention to road signs and traffic conditions. You start to drive?
Not on public roads yet.
There you go. When you start doing that, and certainly when you're backing up, and you have to go back, you have to turn around, and you have to turn around, back and forth, so you don't hit something here, you don't hit something there. You want to avoid all those poles. Okay. So a few months later, the same person will be able to juggle all of those tasks with ease. He will even manage to eat, tune the radio, carry on conversations with passengers at the same time. What he doesn't say is you'll be able to text and do everything else. Okay, you should not text and drive. It's a bad thing. Okay, unlike the inherent awareness of gravity, the act of driving does require conscious training. But once a person masters the skill, he can focus on other complex thoughts and tasks and still drive safely. When studying the 6 constant mitzvot, we must focus not only on understanding how to perform them technically, but more importantly on training ourselves to absorb their underlying concepts to the extent that they become ingrained in our psyche and thus instinctive. This does not mean that we can study these 6 mitzvot just once and be set for life. As we will see, there is a breathtaking beauty and depth to these mitzvot, and the more time we spend studying them and absorbing their underlying concepts, the deeper our awareness and understanding of these concepts will become. And the deeper our awareness becomes, the more consistent we will be in reflecting that awareness in our actions. So that's the purpose of learning this whole thing, because we have to really internalize what we're doing, these 6 concepts, and that way, all 603 commandments, the rabbinic commandments, the rabbinic injunctions that we have, they all become easy. Because we know that it's for a good reason. And when I know it's for a good reason, I'm going to tend to follow that. Very good.